talking about actually doing something about all of that government waste. Not so much. The government wastes billions as the White House gets ready to spend even more of your tax dollars. It's so bad that the feds can't even really keep track of it all. I mean, you just have to laugh because you're going to cry if you don't. For example, there are 42 federal transportation programs. And those 42 programs are run by 6 different departments, all to help people get to the doctor. You've got 8 agencies, 8 that are in charge of consumer safety. 8 agencies. I don't even know how many people work at each of those agencies, but we'll try to get that for you. And the feds oversee 112 mental health programs. Lou Dobbs is the host of Lou Dobbs Tonight on the Fox Business Network. Every president says they're going to cut waste in the federal government, and nobody does it.
You know, Martha, that soundbite you selected there, may be the funniest bit that he has ever done.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Everybody laughed.
It was, and unfortunately, as is always the case with humor, it's because it's built on truth. And the suggestion, the intimation, at least on the part of the president, he was going to do something about it. I mean, he's got some pretty good company.
Yeah, he was talking about how silly it all was.
As we expand across a government that now has over 4 million employees, uniform and civilian, we just watch the government stretch out for as long as the eye can see. And we're going to see it grow even more. The 112 different mental health programs, you hope one of those at least is reserved for the legislative branch of the White House so they can cope and contend better.
Personal therapy purposes.
One of the examples is the non-emergency medical transportation. I love this one because it is about non-emergency, so regularly taking people who are on Medicaid, which is the largest program, $1.3 billion. But there are 8 other programs, and no one knows, as you were suggesting, how many people are actually involved in it. They don't know the budgets of those duplicated programs. And this is then put in some perspective because this is one of my favorite presidential efforts. George W. Bush, back in 2004, imagine this, issued an executive order, a fiat, to fix all of this. He created something called, now this is a Republican, allegedly conservative president, right? The Interagency Transportation Coordinating Council on Access and Mobility.
Oh!
To fix it. Bring greater efficiency.
What do you think they're doing today?
We can't get them to answer the phone, but we did find this out, Martha. I am sad to report that the council has not actually held a meeting since 2008.
Really?
But
so they had 4 years worth of meetings and decided that they were redundant.
Well, we can't really testify that they did actually have an annual meeting.
Okay.
But we can say this with certainty. They have done nothing to fix the problem.
Let's pull up a couple of my other greatest hits here. This is the toy gun regulations group, okay? In the toy gun regulations, because this is a serious problem, you've got the FDA that is responsible if it's a laser kind of toy gun. But of course, if it's a different kind of toy gun, the Commerce Department would have to take that over because they are the people in charge of the orange plug. Oh, so they're regulating a number of devices at my house.
I can imagine.
So they're in charge of all those. And what about
Customs and Border Protection, of course, has to look at these as they come across. And the last number I saw in reading through all the material, the guns at the port of entry, these are play guns, they're spending a whole $10,000 on them and doing nothing to regulate them in effect, because I don't even know how they come up with the number, $10,000 in a federal budget that is $4 trillion big. Only $2.2 trillion of that coming from taxes.
You know, it's worth pointing out that any one of these, you could make a potential argument for why you need any one of these, but you don't need 12 of them. You don't need 2 of them. You don't need 42 of them, agencies to do this stuff. And you need a little bit of accountability as to whether or not they're doing what they were actually supposed to do in the first place.
And no one follows up to look at the efficacy of the program that the Congress in its genius, or the president in his genius, has ordered. And that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is having a government so vast, so large, no one could manage the thing. I mean, the president was being perfectly amiable and honest as he stood there and said,
Anybody-
has no idea what's going on.
who's running out there who you think would be interested in this project?
I think every one of them better be, because I think there's a new mood out there. I mean, we're watching Hillary Clinton attack CEOs because they're making 300
Right.
times the average pay. We're watching people say,
How about
4
federal bureaucrats who
4
maybe...
million people.
Yeah, good point.
The government, not necessarily here to help you and me, but
We
those
know.
4 million folks are certainly getting some assistance.
Yeah, with your tax dollars. Thank you, Lou.
Great to be
Thank
with
you.
you.
That was
Martha.
fun.
Well,
A
we
fun
paid
journey
for
through
it, so
the
we better.
bureaucracy. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lou. We'll see you next time.
I feel better. Jenna Lee's coming up next.